validating your idea is crucial. Before starting anything, before coding, just talk to people. Talk to people in your space and understand whether your problems are valid. Ask them about what is their challenge, the biggest challenges, and try to come up with solutions. So that validating idea is really important, I think.
Hey everybody, Tanner here with WAGMI Ventures. On today's episode, we have Arda Erturk, founder of DAOhub. For anyone who's new, this is the WAGMI Ventures podcast, where we do snapshots with interesting founders from across Web3. Check out wagmiventures.io to learn more about the syndicate behind the podcast, but for now, let's get into it with Arda Erturk. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm here today with Arda Erturk, founder of DAOhub. Arda, how's it going today?
Tanner, good. Thanks. And thanks for having me today.
Yeah, I'm pumped to chat. I know we've got a lot to chat about here. So let's just jump right in. Why don't you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your story and what brought you to building DAOhub?
Sure. So my name is Arda. I moved to Toronto, Canada in 2016 from Turkey. And in Toronto, I went to University of Toronto, studied machine learning and data science. During my first year, I worked at a corporate as an intern, and I realized that I'm not really into the corporate world, cubicle style. It wasn't for me. And during my third year, I co-founded my first company called Roll Scooters. It's the only Canadian-owned and developed shared scooter company. Everyone pretty much is familiar with the shared scooters now. You download the app, scan the QR code, and ride the scooter anywhere. So we did this in a lot of different cities in Canada, including Ottawa, Calgary, Kelowna, BC, and a few other cities. And then in 2022, I started building DAOhub. DAOhub is a marketplace where you can explore new DAOs, invest in them, and manage your portfolio in one central platform. And I've been in the space, in the crypto space for a while. I made my first Bitcoin investment when I was in high school. And I lost pretty much all my returns in altcoins in 2017, 2018. And I explored some other DeFi projects. And I it made me really excited because, a lot of those technologies, the blockchain technology itself was amazing. It removes, the middleman, and it adds a lot of value. And I did more research, especially on the DeFi side. And then I got involved in some NFT projects. It was also an interesting period. And then I came across a few DAOs through Discord channels, through friends and family, some other DAO members that I talked to before. And I wanted to explore more DAOs. It also made me really interested. It was difficult because there was no directory. There was no one platform where you can search for information about DAOs, their financials. It actually takes up to 8 to 9 steps to invest in a DAO. And, for financial info, you have to look at CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap. For information about the DAO, you have to go through Discord channel, Twitter, and other sources. And it was really difficult. And I talked to other people and realized that it's a common problem. And I wanted to build a marketplace for them where people can easily explore new DAOs, also see all the information in one central platform and invest. And then later on, after making 10, 15 different DAO investments myself, I realized that governance is difficult. You have to actively involve in the governance process. And it technically becomes impossible after investing in 10, 15 different DAOs. And we started building tools to make it easier for people. That's where we are at now.
Very cool. So I want to dig into more about how DAOhub works for sure. But before that, could you talk a little bit more about the community of those who consider DAO tokens as essentially, an asset class in and of themselves? What have you learned about how they think and what they need?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. One thing that we're trying to do at DAOhub is to build a perception that DAO investments are different than other speculative crypto coin investments. Because these are legit companies, they're building products. It's really different than other, altcoins, all those, initial coin offering era. So we can think of these crypto governance tokens as shares. Just, in a public company, you purchase their shares and you have equity in the company. It's pretty much similar. When you purchase their governance tokens, you have a share, you have a voice in the governance. You can put on proposals, you can vote, and a lot of different DAOs have different structures. For social DAOs, you have access to their events when you purchase their governance tokens. So there are different utilities for each DAO. And I think that also makes it really interesting. As a company, as a DAO yourself, you can set your own rules, and people know what these rules are, and they purchase a token and they invest in you based on these different factors. So again, I think utility is a really, really important concept in the crypto world, including NFTs, including DAOs. And I always recommend people to really, really, dig deeper when they're investing in a DAO. Take a look at what's the utility, what's the governance structure, and all these different pieces. So yeah, I think utility is a really, really important concept in DAO space as well.
Yeah, I love it. It kind of seems like you're bridging some of the information inefficiencies that might be preventing people from getting more involved with DAOs too, where if there is kind of this one central hub where, proposals can be understood and voted on, et cetera, like it seems like it would be it would lower the barrier to adoption for probably the entire DAO space if successful. So I'm curious too, like for those types of people, what do you consider the biggest unlocks provided by DAOhub that really can make a difference for how they interface with DAOs?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we have three different components. One is exploring DAOs. We have over 2,000 DAOs where you can see a lot of different data, including their team, including financials, audits, governance details, all the information that you need to conduct the due diligence. And the other component is investing. We are using Uniswap's liquidity pool to allow people to purchase DAO tokens, governance tokens. And the other piece is portfolio management piece, which is really important. So actually, there's a lot of elements in that component, portfolio management piece. But basically, you can see your existing portfolio, you can see the performance, and portfolio and the governance piece as well, where you can see all the active proposals of your existing DAOs. You can review them, you can vote directly using our platform. And normally, if you want to vote, if you want to engage in the governance process, you have to go through different platforms. You have to look at the conversation on Discord, and then look at different platforms like Snapshot to see the existing proposals. And it's a lot of different steps. So what we're trying to do is making that whole user experience and UI easier for people. And you actually made a really good point about the adoption too. And I think adoption will be really, really it's been an important concept so far in the Web3 space. But UI and UX is going to be one of the biggest drivers, I think, because Web3 space, especially DAO space, is still really technical. Like you cannot really get notification about the proposals easily. You have to use some Discord bots and you have to use some different tools, but it's not really straightforward for non-technical people. So we're trying to resolve these concerns and make it easier and put everything in one central platform where people can engage with their DAOs directly. And we're also building tools for DAOs that they can see what the community engagement looks like. We are also going to be providing some information to DAOs to make it more engaging for the members as well. And so we're providing all these different pieces for both DAOs and DAO investors as well. And we're building more tools to make it much easier and more convenient for Web2 people specifically.
Love it. Yeah. So in prior conversations, we've talked about how there's actually an AI component to this too. And I think that AI component is especially interesting and not always something that comes up often on this podcast, right? So I'm curious, how can AI actually be useful for navigating, say, like, just to take kind of one slice, like say some of the governance issues currently faced by new and existing DAOs, like how can AI be useful for tackling those?
Yeah, that's a great point. I honestly think that AI is missing in Web3 space. We're seeing a few applications, but we're not seeing a lot of applications, honestly. And I have an AI background from university, so like I'm really passionate about AI. Um, we're releasing a new product. It's going to be a data analytics dashboard where we will show some information about DAOs and their community, including some sentiment analysis, analyzing their tweets, analyzing their on-chain activity, off-chain activity. So this will give some idea to potential DAO investors about what the community engagement looks like and what's the sentiment. And this will also give a really clear understanding for DAOs to understand their sentiment and how they can change it if it's negative. So this is just one of the use cases that we're considering just for the community side. But for governance, there's a lot of things that AI can solve, actually. One thing that we're considering is building AI tools to make governance automated, such as an AI. You can think of this like you will delegate an AI and the AI will vote on your behalf for your proposals. And how it works is it will look at different data points. It will look at a lot of different market data, some information about the DAO, and it will also look at your on-chain activity to understand your risk preferences. And the AI will vote on your behalf. This will solve a lot of issues like voter turnout, which is one of the biggest pain points in the DAO ecosystem right now. I'm also part of a lot of DAOs, and I'm building a social DAO here in Toronto. Engagement is really tricky. We have been trying different ways, but we haven't really found a good solution. And this is also similar in other DAOs as well. I'm a part of another investment DAO, and they can't even reach quorum for their proposals. So we really think that AI can solve some of these issues like voter turnout in the long term, and we will be building tools to help people achieve those goals.
Very cool. Yeah. So let's take a step back. So what have been some of the earliest challenges, and how are you and your team solving for them? And kind of related, I'm curious whether they've primarily been technical challenges or whether they've been kind of more business challenges.
In terms of AI?
No, sorry. More for just DAOhub in general.
Oh yeah. Good question. In terms of challenges, one challenge is the fact that there's no aggregated information about DAOs. So we basically had to build our own web scraping tools to get information about DAOs. This includes off-chain data mostly. And for on-chain data, we're using some APIs to fetch data from their own wallet activity. But that other piece, the off-chain activity, has been a little missing. Like it's not really easy. We have to use some web scrollers to search that data, search different information about DAOs. So aggregating that data piece has been one of the biggest challenges. We had to build a lot of different tools. Other challenges would be the DAO market is still not large as other verticals in Web3. And I'm bullish on DAOs. Honestly, I really like the concept of the DAO, and I think it can solve a lot of issues in the traditional governance, traditional public companies that we're seeing. We're already seeing a lot of different use cases like investment DAOs, social DAOs, and I really love them all. It allows different business models that didn't work in the past to be explored again. So I think it creates a lot of different opportunities in that sense. Going back to your question about challenges, again, market size is still not big enough. I think there needs to be, we all, as Web3 builders and people in the DAO space, we all need to do more work in terms of education. When I talk to people from Web2, Web2 investors, they understand the value, but they usually don't know about DAOs when I bring this topic up. And I think education has been one of the biggest, I don't want to say challenge, but it's been one of the biggest pieces that we need to emphasize on. to educate people, especially Web2 people. And I think those would be one of the biggest challenges so far.
Super interesting. Yeah. So similar question then, what has stood out as most surprising thus far in your work building DAOhub?
What is the most surprising?
Yeah, just anything where it went left when you thought it would go right. Anything that's kind of the headline, most unexpected parts of building DAOhub thus far.
Oh yeah. So we started building last year in April, and I spent a few months just talking to a bunch of DAOs and DAO investors to understand whether the problems I had are valid, and they also had the same concerns. And that allowed me to actually, explore different things. Like I learned a lot about DAOs and what we can achieve with DAOs. So that's been really, really good for me to just, it just made me really interested about DAOs when I talked to a bunch of DAOs and all the things that they have built so far. And after that, I actually this allowed me to explore more DAOs. Like I explored Friends with Benefits. It's a social DAO. I attended an event in Toronto, and it's a global community. They have events in a lot of different countries. I met a bunch of different like-minded people. And then after that, we, with 7 co-founders in Toronto, we founded a DAO ourselves. It's a social DAO where we bring tech founders and VCs together. We make introductions, we host events, and it's a really, really nice community. We don't have Web3. We don't just have Web3 people. We also have Web2 and investors as well. But it's a really intimate community where we actually help each other out. And I think those are the best forms in terms of a social club. There are also a bunch of nonprofits and other kind of forms that you can set your social community. But I think DAOs provides a lot of different values. And we are planning to transition our DAO into an investment DAO later on using our existing network and existing members. So it also allows people to invest in something that can actually bring a lot of value, and they can provide on-hand support to those portfolio companies. So I learned about all these benefits of DAOs, and we're seeing a lot of different new things every day, especially like in Web3, learning never ends. You see different things every day. You learn new concepts every day. So I really like that component of being in the Web3 space. We're just trying to, educate people, especially Web2 people, around what we could achieve with DAOs and why this is going to be the future of corporate governance structure. And so far I love it. I learned a lot of things in the DAO space, and I'm going to keep exploring different things.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so I'd love to learn more. I mean, you mentioned Friends with Benefits, but I'd love to learn more about the DAOs that you find most interesting. Like, what are those DAOs, and why are they the ones that stand out to you the most?
Yeah, great question. So I think one of the best use cases of the DAO structure is investment DAOs, because it allows, in a normal traditional VC, you have GP and like 80%, 20%, those different structures. In investment DAOs, it's usually, everyone is an LP, and there's usually really low minimum check sizes, and everyone can be an LP, and they can provide their support, on-hand support to their portfolio companies. It brings a lot of different ideas together, because there's usually investors in those as LPs. There's operators, founders. So it allows a lot of opinions to be brought to the table. So I really like that idea. There are some really good ones like Orange DAO, YC Alumni DAO. There's Metacartel. There's Symmetrical, Seed Club, and Constellation DAO, which I'm a part of. It's a Techstars DAO, alumni DAO. And other than investment DAOs, I really like social DAOs as well. Friends with Benefits is one of the examples. We're building one called Ace DAO. There's also a lot of different DAOs in US, College DAO, and a few other ones too. Some of the communities are just doing things related to art, and I really like the intersection between art and Web3 as well. So there's a lot of really good DAOs in that space as well. And then there are some other different DAOs, like there was a Ukraine DAO. They raised some funds to support people in Ukraine. There is a DAO called Klima DAO. They're also really interesting. They're doing things in the climate change and like supporting people, and like they're kind of finding solutions, and they have a token and it's backed by like carbon assets, like actual carbon assets. So that's also really interesting. And DeFi DAOs are absolutely my favorites too. There's Aave, Curve, and I'm personally invested in some of these DeFi companies as well. One of the challenges in the space, I think, is the fact that DAO, the definition of a DAO is kind of broad now. Typically in a DAO, there's no CEO, no board of directors, but we're seeing a lot of DAOs, they're calling themselves DAOs, but it's not decentralized. It's not autonomous. They have CEOs, they make the decisions. There's a proposal process for some of them, but they don't really, execute all the decisions. So I think that needs some time too. We need to, that's also related to education, I think, but we need more time in terms of, like getting a clear understanding of what a DAO is. And we also need to have some standards, honestly. But I think this is one of the things that can be worked out in the short term. But yeah, like I really like all these different DAOs, DeFi, social DAOs, investment DAOs. There's a lot of different categories too. Like in health, even in health, there are some DAOs. So yeah, it's a really interesting space.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, you can hear how interesting this stuff is to you, and I agree. There's a ton of really awesome stuff happening. So, okay, 3 last questions here. First question. So you participated in Techstars twice thus far, is that right? So I'm curious your take on... just once. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm curious your take on the Techstars Web3 community, how it's helped, what it's doing right, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, great question. So we participated in Techstars through my first company, Roll Scooters, but I'm also involved in their Web3 community as well. They have a really good post-program support, by the way. You have an access to all the people in their network, their mentors, managing directors. There's a Discord channel that you can reach out to anyone. So I really like the post-program support. And there is a Techstars, it's not an official Techstars DAO, but it's a Techstars alumni DAO called Constellation DAO, which I'm a part of. It's a really good community, and they also want to become an investment DAO. Right now, they're raising funds, and hopefully they will close it soon, and they will start funding some companies. In terms of the community, it's an amazing community. They have a lot of Web3 focused people. And I think they have been really emphasizing in the Web3 space for the last 2-3 years. And they have a lot of Web3 focused accelerators now. There's going to be one in Ireland. There's one in UK, powered by Polygon. There was also one with Filecoin. So there's a really big emphasis on Web3 for Techstars. And we're also seeing this pattern in other accelerators too. YC, A16Z, they through their A16Z crypto fund, they created an accelerator. So we're seeing this similar pattern in different accelerators and incubator programs, actually. And in terms of the network in Techstars, so far I reached out to a lot of different people using my Techstars network. Some of them were mentors, some of them were founders. And I really like the aspect that, when you reach out to a Techstars founder, the mentality is give back, because, it's you learn things and you provide that support, you provide that learning to other community members too. So I really like that aspect. When you reach out to them, they're really friendly. We schedule a call, we talk, and it's a really friendly talk. I'm pretty sure it's similar in other communities like YC, A16Z, and other accelerators. So far, I really liked it. The post-program support is amazing.
Love it, yeah. Okay, so next question. What is your most generalizable advice for founders who are building in the Web3 space, and maybe kind of focused on the ones who are maybe joining right now during the bear market. I think it's probably a smaller group because of it being a bear market. But I'm curious, just given what you know, having been in the space for a while, what would you say to people who are getting involved now as founders or as builders, participants in DAOs, etc.?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, I think it's the best time to build now that we're in a bear market. In terms of the advice, I think my biggest advice would be validating your idea is crucial. Before starting anything, before coding, just talk to people. Talk to people in your space and understand whether your problems are valid. Ask them about what is their challenge, the biggest challenges, and try to come up with solutions. So that validating idea is really important, I think. And then the second piece is, like, we're seeing a lot of projects and they are issuing tokens just to have their tokens. It just doesn't make sense to me, honestly. A lot of investors are asking me if we're going to be doing a SAFT and like we're going to have our own token. I tell them that we haven't really found a good way, like a good utility for our token. So we're not planning to launch a token. But this is not the case for a lot of different companies. And at the end, the value gets really bad and like people just sell their tokens. Like it becomes not really valuable. So this is my other biggest advice. Just don't do things just to say you're doing things. Actually, take some time to understand whether this is going to be valuable for people. Talk to them. Understand whether, this makes sense for them. So yeah, those two would be the biggest ones, I think.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, Arda, what is your team working on right now, and what's the best way for people to follow along on the journey?
Yeah, so we're working on a lot of different things. We are now focused on the AI side, building some different tools to help people to manage their portfolio more efficiently using AI tools. And we're also working on our data analytics dashboard to provide more AI-powered information about DAOs. This includes a ChatGPT model where you can ask a question about a DAO and you can get the answer right away. So these are really cool things that we're working on, and we will be releasing them soon. In terms of reaching out our contact information, we have a Twitter account. It's DAOhub XYZ. Our website is DAOhub.xyz as well. And people can reach out to us on Twitter or our Discord or directly at arda@mefi.ca. Yeah.
Love it. Arda, thank you so much for the time. Have a great start to your week here, and excited to see everything coming up here shortly. So have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Thank you so much, Tanner. Pleasure being here.